Yeah, I understand the logic. The only thing I'd push back on is the language itself true? Because if the language itself is true, the language cannot correspond or support any encoding within S.
I don't think that languages don't have truth values. They're not propositional.
Okay, so if the language doesn't have a truth value, then what is the language's like? Why are you using the language to support S?
The language doesn't support.
So then why are
S.
you bringing up a formal?
If the S is written in the language.
You said if for the formal language quantifies and encodes S such that if L is true.
No, okay, so you may have written it down wrong. So
bro, I'm
there are formal language.
Exactly what you have here.
Or then you might be misunderstanding. So when I say a formal language supports quantification and encoding, what that means is there are formal languages that don't support quantification. There are formal languages that don't support encoding. There are languages that don't support either. There are languages that do support both.
What do you mean by
So it means that the axioms that define the language are sufficiently complicated to have those properties.
What does that mean? What do you mean by the axioms are sufficient?
So for example, they're sufficient. So the
properties and the axiom itself.
Well, I'm just talking about like the set of axioms, right? Like the set of axioms have certain properties.
If the set of axioms aren't true, then there's no foundation or starting point here. You have to assume that the set of axioms are true, such that
yeah, sure. I mean, this is just like meta logic that we're doing here. We're just analyzing different formal languages.
No, but my whole point is you have to assume that those set of axioms are true. You don't have a justification for that. That's my whole point. In this,
I haven't even described what the axioms are. The point is I'm just talking about any language that has certain properties. So we agree that there are different ways that you can discuss logic, right?
You said that if God guarantees S, then L would be true.
No, L doesn't have truth value. L is a language, not a proposition.
If God guarantees L, then S will be true. That's my point.
Wait, no, that's not what I said. Read it again.
Quantification of the coin. There is a sentence from the form A sentence S is true if and only if God guarantees S.
Yeah.
Okay, so the formal language, which is the quantification and encoding of S, okay, is what?
No, there's no quantification and encoding of S. You're not quantifying and encoding S.
He's just being a sophist. He's not. I'm trying to participate.
You're just misreading it. I never said there's quantification and encoding of S.
Blitz, I granted that you could even make a argument, dude. I granted that. I'm not even trying to push you. Like
you're just not understanding what I'm saying.
I'm genuinely trying to make this actually make sense in a reasonable way.
Okay. Do you want me to I can? So why don't I summarize P2?
Past the fact that you can't make an argument. Why
don't I summarize P2 in natural language, and then I can explain why I add the details.
Wait, Blitz, 1 second. You said that you are doing an internal critique. Okay, so I just granted to you that an internal critique is possible, somehow being able to disprove the foundation of the internal critique itself. I granted that to you. So now that I'm trying to entertain the argument, you're being facetious. You're saying that S is necessarily the case, or X is true if God guarantees it. That's essentially all S. All P1
that's what P2 is.
God is the foundation to all propositional states, and all premise 2 is saying is that if a propositional state is true, God guarantees that. That's all you're saying.
Well, there's a little bit more in P2. There's a little bit more in P2 that you're missing. Namely, P2 is saying that P2 is saying that we can formalize the notion that God is the truth maker for a proposition. That's what P2 is saying.
I don't know what you mean by formalize. You saying
that we can express it in a formal language.
Exactly, a formal language. But then I asked you, is the expression in that formal language, is that specific expression denoting a truth value? You said no. So if the expression...
Hold on. You didn't talk about an expression.
I said the formal
language doesn't have truth values.
True. The formal language...
Languages don't have truth values.
Wait a second. Does the formal language depend upon an expression of it?
No.
So then... Why did you just bring up expression?
What would that mean?
You just being a sophist.
You said it. I didn't.
Why'd you bring
I didn't say expression. You did. You did. I didn't say that word. You did.
You said that the formal language expresses what is true. You literally said that.
I didn't say that phrase.
You factually
Do you have the playback?
Did he say that?
Yes.
You factually did say that.
Okay.
You said
then if I did, then I misspoke. I mean, we can look at the comments, but they don't.
Blitz, you literally.
I didn't say that,
bro.
Okay.
You literally did say that. You said.
I mean, chat is disagreeing with you.
I don't, bro. I have this all recorded, so I just go back and just look.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, like you can rewatch the recording.
Wait.
Like,
1 second.
if I said that, I misspoke. I don't think I said that.
I think you just keep misspeaking because you quite literally did say that. You quite literally said.
I don't think I did.
So
but
what is
I mean, you can like it's irrelevant.
Formalize.
That's not what I meant.
Did you say formalize? Did you say that the formal language allows us to formalize the propositional state?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So if the formal language allows us to formalize the propositional state, does the formal language itself have a truth value?
Formal languages don't have truth values. It's not a proposition
if the formal
itself.
language does not have a truth value, Blitz, then how can we formalize the propositional state if the propositional state is necessarily true as the grounding of all propositional states?
I don't see how those two things are related. Can you ask again?
Maybe try to like just make it in a way that, because this is the defeater to this like really weak argument. You're essentially saying that the thing
you haven't even gotten past premise two, by the way.
You're essentially saying that the thing that is the ultimate ontological identity state to all propositional states exists in such a way that can be quantified or formalized in a formal language. And so we express using the formal language, we can quantify, we can formalize this ontological propositional state in a language itself. But I'm asking you, when you say formalize, what exactly does that mean? That's why you said express when I asked you. When you say formalize, what does it mean to formalize something using a formal language? What does that mean?
Yeah, so if we want to formalize something, and yes, here I will use the word express. All that means is you express it in a no, I don't think I did before. I don't think I did before, but I'm happy to use it now.
Oh my gosh. Go ahead, Blitz.
I don't think I did. But
you did use the word, bro.
So we could say formulate
rather than express. You guys see what he's doing?
I don't think I did before, but I'm happy to use it now.
We can play all the sophist game.
Yeah. You should. I mean, like, look.
We can play the sophistry.
Look. I mean, like, if I did say it and I just didn't remember, that's my bad. But like, look, when I say formalize something, what I mean is that you're converting it into some sort of symbolic language that can be analyzed using formal logic. That's what I'm saying.
Wait, that can be analyzed. You're converting into some sort of symbolic language that can be analyzed using formal logic.
Yeah, so like in the same way that you like you know how there are rules for like conjunction and disjunction, there are rules for so you can analyze the truth table of a proposition once you express it in a formal language. That's the point of a formal language.
Okay. Perfect. So the formal logic that you are using, right, within the expression of the formal language, is that formal logic necessarily true?
I mean, yeah, it's just zeroth order logic. I mean, it's what you and I would usually call propositional logic. I assume that you and I both work with
true,
this.
Though. Is it necessarily true?
So again, it's an internal critique, and in your worldview.
Oh my gosh! Well, 1 second. So you're so the formal logic that we are using in the quantification and the encoding of the formal language to formalize the formal language is that formal logic that we are.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The formal logic that we're using in the truth table to quantify and encode that formal language, okay, is that formal language which we are using the formal logic to actually quantify and encode, is the formal logic itself necessarily true? Because the formal logic
your worldview,
itself,
yeah.
1 second. So, but you're assuming my worldview to be true right now.
Yeah, under your worldview, yeah.
So the formal logic is necessarily true. What's your justification for the formal logic being necessarily
This is your worldview. I'm not
1 second. Like in order for you to quantify and encode, okay, the propositional state using the formal language, okay, and the formal language is necessarily dependent upon formal logic. Okay, in our world, God would be the necessary foundation of the formal logic itself. So what is grounding the formal logic? Because the formal logic is within that truth table, right? Which is what you're using to formalize and encode that sort of proposition. That's how we're analyzing, because we're taking this necessary identity.
Yeah, this is under your worldview. Under your worldview, it's God that grounds it.
Okay, so then why are you trying? So it's like saying words don't exist, but you're using words to say words don't exist. You're trying to use this formal logic reasoning to try to
where's the
God's existence in P2.
Which proposition is false?
The proposition can't be false without it being the antithesis from the necessary identity state, which is God. So how can the proposition of all propositional states be false?
So this proposition should be really unobjectionable to you.
No, it's not unobjectionable. I have a problem with you saying formal logic and can explain a formal language when in which the formal logic that you are using necessarily depends upon God's existence.
So do you have a problem with like using formal languages at all?
What?
Do you have a problem with using formal languages at all?
Okay, one second. So formal language, as you classified, would just be some sort of like descriptor of some sort of like formal logic function of quantification and encoding. Okay.
So not all formal languages have quantification and encoding, by the way.
Formal language, if and only if the formal language is necessarily going to be entailed and derivative of the necessary identity state which dictates wisdom cannot be, which is God. So it's like you're trying to use.
Sorry, you kind of slurred over the last bit and I didn't catch it. Can you say it again?
I'll say it again. I'm okay with using formal language if and only if the formal language is ultimately derivative of and described by the necessary identity state, which is God. It seems like you're putting the cart before the horse here, right? It seems like in other words, you're saying this formal language, which we're using to formalize, okay, this propositional state, is dependent upon formal logic. What I'm saying is formal logic can only be true if and only if God, as necessary identity state, imposes it. So you're saying there's a truth value that doesn't have a truth value. It's just contradictory.
So you can hold your worldview and accept P2, by the way.
Don't tell me what I can hold my worldview and accept.
No, I mean like your worldview is consistent with P2.
I don't.
P2 is just saying if there is a formal language L that supports these things, and under your worldview, that formal language would be grounded by God.
First of all, brother,
then there's a sentence of a certain form.
In this conversation, conditionals being possible. Okay, I don't.
No, I'm talking about formal languages here, not God existing. I'm talking about formal languages.
Of conditionals, not the practical application of conditionals. So I accept that we can express conditionals just in like as some sort of like conceptual understanding, right? Or notion, right? So like when you say modus ponens, do I reject modus ponens? Modus ponens as being expressed in like a conceptual understanding, I'm fine with. But the practical application of modus ponens being applied to reality to disprove a proposition, I reject. Right? So I can entertain modus ponens for like a conceptual exercise, right? That's what I'm doing. I already don't accept you're like if conditional. I already told you that. But for the sake of the dialectic, I'm accepting that. I'm just simply asking you to justify how formal languages, right, can necessarily, how formal logic can necessarily express a formal language for quantification and encoding if and only, or if you do not have a necessary identity state to actually ground this formal logic itself. You need formal logic to explain the formal language.
You can assume that there is such a thing. For the sake of this argument, you can assume that there is such a thing. That's fine.
You can't, but you can't though. You can't if you're doing internal critique. You're doing internal critique, which automatically would be a defeater for your entire position.
The internal critique is I assume your worldview, and then I derive a contradiction. That's what an internal critique is.
Only works when there is a worldview that you are critiquing, which does not necessarily entail a foundation of identity to reality.
Okay, so I can
explain why that is.
QTop, you got to give me a sec. You got to give me a sec.
You can speak. I'm just showing you why this doesn't work.
So this sounds like we got through P1. We almost got through P2. And then it sounds like we're getting close to the conclusion you don't like, and now you're saying, oh well, you can't do internal critiques anyway. That's what it sounds like you're doing.
Correct. I'm not saying. Look, I reject P2, and from my rejection of P2,
on what grounds?
I'm explaining on the grounds that formal logic has a necessary identity state, which would refute your conclusion. Because
so which part of P2 is false?
Yeah, that formal languages can exist without formal logic being necessary.
That isn't part of P2.
Yes, it is, because you said formal languages quantifies and express, right, what formal logic is. You said that formal logic is the truth table of how we analyze formal languages.
So formal languages include
formal logic build truth tables within formal language. That's what you said.
No, I think you got that backwards. So formal languages expresses a proposition in terms of symbols, and then we use formal logic to analyze those symbolic propositions.
Exactly,
right?
That's what I just said. I said formal language exists.
Yeah.
Formal logic is what is used to explain the formal language within a truth table. That's what I literally just said.
Sure, it's not quite right, but sure, that's fine.
Sure, it's fine, bro. I'm still manning your position. What do you mean? Sure, it's fine.
Well, it wasn't quite right, but it's close enough. It's close enough.
Bro, you are saying within first order logic, okay, we use formal languages, which is just some sort of like symbolic format, okay, in which we have these symbols, which then we use formal logic to express those symbols in a truth table to then analyze what the actual okay, exactly, dude. Like,
that's fine now. As said, now it's fine.
I want to express this, dude, for the sake of the dialectic. I'm no dummy, bro. I can keep up. This is really not that complex, okay? I'm just trying to understand, like, how internal critiques are some that can even be used. Now, look, you say, oh, well, you're just running because you're just saying that. No, I'm not just running. You're saying formal logic is something that you can have in a worldview in which the necessary identity state can be non-existent, correct?
No, that's not part of P2. That doesn't show up in P2 at all.
That is implied with P2 because you're saying the formal language. You're saying the formal language depends upon formal logic to express it.
So there is no assumption that God could possibly not exist in P2.
It's entailed. It is entailed. Thank you.
No, it's not.
I went for the $1. Okay, you know what?
What's the entailment?
Okay, for the sake of argument, let's just say it's not entailed, bro. Let's just say it's not entailed. Let's just keep moving, bro. Let's just keep moving. Because what I'm saying is the reason why I say it's entailed is because, well, within all logic at all, within even like the premise one, but we're doing this for sake of argument. We're charting through this like territory here. I'm trying to grant you a lot of things, right? But within P2, the reason why I say that it entails a contradiction within the conclusion is because all formal logic, right? Because again, if you're sending your appeal to like, deflationary theory of truth or like, nominalism, right? Within this formal logic, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But it seems like you don't want to hold that. It seems like you're doing an internal critique where you're assuming
Interestingly, this view or this syllogism, I don't think it works if you're a deflationist on truth.
That's what I was reading. That's what I'm saying, because a deflationist doesn't actually have a propositional attitude to the proposition. They're just essentially the proposition is true because it is. The proposition doesn't actually have a relation.
But are you a
formal
deflationist?
Language, which we use and we quantify within the formal logic, right?
Are you a deflationist?
I'm not a deflationist. Of course, I'm not a deflationist.
Okay, so then it's relevant.
What I'm saying, Blitz, is when you you know what? Let's just for the sake of argument, let's push through. P3, Blitz, P3.
Mm-hmm.
If there exists in any formal language L, support quantum language. What do you mean by quantum language? I said
supporting quantification and encoding.
Oh, I thought for some reason I put that's my bad. I thought you said quantum language. Okay, I had no idea what that was. Quantification. And by quantification, you just mean being able to be expressed in some sort of numerical.
Not
format.
Quite. It's allowing for symbols like for all and there exists within your universe of discourse.
For all and there. Okay, so it's just dealing with it's actually like predicate calculus.
Yeah. Not all formal languages have that, so that's why I have to include these stipulations.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so if there is a format supporting an encoding language and encoding, then in that language there exists a formal language and the predicate S is true in L. Okay, let's attack that. What do you mean by S is true?
Sorry, can you reread that? Because I think you may have copied it down wrong.
If there exists in any formal language L supporting quantification and encoding a language, then in that language there exists a formal language and the predicate S is true in L. Did I miss some stuff?
Oh no, you missed a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll read it slowly.
Yeah. Okay. 1 second. Let me delete everything that I have here. Okay.
So if there exists in any formal language L supporting quantification and coding, you have that part, right?
Yep. Wait 1 second. One second. Supporting. I don't type as fast as you, Blitz. Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Go ahead. Supporting content.
Yeah. So if there exists a sentence of I'm just cutting out that parenthetical in any formal language L supporting quantification and encoding.
Okay, no problem.
It's a parenthetical. So if there exists a sentence of the form, quote, a sentence S is true in L if and only if God guarantees S, unquote.
Wait. S is true in L if and only if God. Okay. Yep, God guarantees.
Then.
So this is just a restatement of P2.
It's related to it. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Then in any formal language L, there exists in that language a predicate, S is true in L.
Okay. This is like Goodell's argument, but you're trying to just restructure.
It's similar.
Yeah, I say this
It's similar. It's not quite the same thing, but it is similar.
Bro, this is literally Goodell's art, but you're just trying to like change it, bro. He's just messing around with just like predicate stuff. Okay, so if God, okay, so let me see this, bro. So there's just a sentence of the form a sentence S is true in L if and only if God guarantees L. Then in any formal language L there is a okay, wait. So what did you say? You said in any formal language.
So then there exists in that language a predicate.
Okay.
S is true in L.
Okay, yeah. Then there exists in that language a predicate S is true in L. Yeah, and we should just say like a total antithesis formulation of Goodell's argument. It's like you're just trying to like,
sort of.
Yeah.
So by the way, I think that the first quote that you have, you said if and only if God guarantees L, but it should be if and only if God guarantees S.
Okay, well, okay. I'll just read what I have. If there exists in any formal language L supporting quantification and encoding, if there exists a sentence of the form, a sentence S is true in L if and only if God guarantees L. Okay, then in any formal,
it should be an S.
Oh, L. If and if
that last L should be an S.
Okay, so wait. So
yeah.
So there's a sentence S is true in L if and only if God guarantees S.
Yep.
Okay. Then in any formal language L, then there exists in that language a predicate S is true in L.
Yep. I think that you had an if after the word encoding, or if there exists. That if there exists after the word encoding shouldn't be there.
Okay. I want to make sure I want to make sure you got it right before I like analyze this. So is this it? Do I have it right now?
Read it again.
Okay. If there exists in any formal language L supporting quantification and encoding, a sentence of the form a sentence S is true in L if and only if God guarantees S, then in any formal language L, then there exists in that language a predicate S is true in L.
Yep, that's exactly what I have.
Okay, so let's analyze this. If there exists any formal language L supporting quantification, okay, that's just a restatement of the second. Okay, if and only God to the formal language L, then there exists in that language a predicate S is true in L. So when you say there exists in that formal, so when you say God guarantees S in the formal language L, then there exists in that formal language a predicate S is true in L. Mm-hmm. Explain that. So you're saying that predicate is being expressed in the formal language. So it's true in the formal language.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I lost you for a second.
S is true in L. Is that you're saying that is that predicate a set in the formal language? Can this be
No, so if I were to express this more technically, I would say that there is a truth predicate in the language L. And you can see that just from the first half of the sentence.
No problem. Okay, perfect. So you're saying there's a true predicate in the language
No, not a true predicate, a truth predicate. Right? The distinction being that there's a predicate, call it T or something like that when evaluated on a sentence, outputs either true or false. And it outputs true if the sentence that you plug in is true.
Yeah, see with these conditionals. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, I'm trying to grant stuff. This is why you have to stick to like necessitarianism, guys. This is why. Because there's a lot of things that go on when we talk about predicate logic. This is why you have to be a necessitarian. I've granted so many things, but again, I just want to generally, understand what the brother is saying. He says that in formal language L, there exists a truth predicate.
Yeah. So I could just explain what P3 is kind of trying to do, and maybe that'll help.
I get what P3 is trying to do. You're just essentially saying within the formal language there is a truth predicate.
Yeah.
Formal language as it is expressed, there's a truth predicate such that S is true in L.
Yeah. And the reason why that's like reasonable from this the reason why it's reasonable is we're basically saying X if and only if Y, and therefore X has to exist in the formal language, right? Like there has to be a way to express X in the formal language if you're using X in the formal language.
Okay, so Blitz. So the problem that I've been having is just that you're saying that like formal languages are some sort of expression from logic. I've already kind of raised my problem there, but I want to kind of when you say that that you have a true predicate or a truth predicate.
Right.
So the predicates can output true or false depending upon what value is implemented in the formal language. Is that correct? So the formal
So like
is the
so in natural language, imagine that there was like a machine that you would write down a sentence, put it into the machine, and then it would spit out true or false. right? Or it would spit out nothing if it didn't have a truth value. So like you would write down the sky is blue, you put it into the machine, it spits out true. You put in the sky is red, you put it into the machine, it spits out false. So so what I'm suggesting is that from the first part of the conditional P3,
okay,
you get tautologically, or it's a tautology.
You're saying that you're just saying it's just
the machine exists.
True. It's just analytically.
Yeah. P3 is essentially analytically true. Yeah,
yes.
because the point is if that sentence exists, that sentence contains a truth predicate.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
okay, yes, exactly. So because the sentence itself contains the true predicate, right, or the truth predicate. Are you saying a true predicate?
Truth predicate. Yeah.
Truth predicate. Because the sentence itself contains a truth predicate, the sentence itself has to be true. Okay?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is so we have a sentence expressed in a language, right? And that sentence says, X is true if and only if Y. Well, that means that there is a notion in which we can say X is true within that language. So,
but it's only true by description. It's not actually true in a like.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. The point is that there's a way to express truth within the language.
If it's only true by virtue of its quantification or expression in language, then that doesn't actually make it true. It's just
it doesn't. So all I'm saying is that there's
okay. So this is
so you know how there are like predicates in different languages. Like we can talk about like. We can talk about a predicate that's like, like the redness predicate. Like the redness predicate as applied to the sky is false, right? The redness predicate as applied to an apple is true. Well, all P3 is saying is that there is a truthness predicate in the language L, and that's not self-evident. That's analytically true because we use the truthness predicate in the first half of the conditional of P3.
Yeah, but that doesn't really get us to anywhere, because if it's just analytically true because we that doesn't. I'm
just being complete. That's all.
Yeah, it's just going to be like tautologically necessary within.
P3 doesn't do much.
Yeah, it doesn't do much. But the whole point I'm trying to say is like, how does you look, if you're building some sort of like foundation here, right? And we start with P1, and P1 is okay. We have this like ontological necessary identity state that that's the grounding or the explanation of all propositional states. P2 saying, okay, now that we have this, right, we can derive a formal language of quantification and encoding using formal logic with a truth value to then express this specific relation between the predicate and the formal language. Now you're going by P3 and you're saying, okay, because we actually have this expression within that formal language, this would necessitate that it's analytically true. It would be tautologically necessary because we have to actually use that truth predicate in expressing it in the formal language. So this doesn't get us anywhere, Blitz. P3 does.
Well, that's because you haven't read P4 yet. So
P3, Blitz, but you're building a foundation. P3 doesn't do anything. Why would you?
QTop,
what's the point? What's the point of telling you something that's tautologically necessary? I don't care about analytic truth, Blitz.
So QTop,
I care about actual truth. Blitz, you haven't done anything, bro.
QTop.
Guys, he didn't do anything. This is laughable.
QTop. When we do syllogisms,
so P4 must really do something then. Really?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
But hold on, QTop. Before we get there, just to be clear, writing down analytic truths and syllogisms is useful all the time to connect ideas that are otherwise perhaps not obvious. So that's all I'm doing in P3. I'm just covering my bases.
I really don't think analytic truths would be useful at all in this context.
They're useful to connect ideas, right? Because like if I say if it's true that A implies B analytically and B implies C analytically, it still might not be obvious that A implies C analytically. Like you might have to think about it a little bit. So that's what P3 is. It's just a connector.
I mean, so the thing is, right, Blitz, P1 and P2 would just necessarily entail P3 just analytically. I don't need you to, I don't need.
Well, no, actually, that's not true. P3 is analytically true. It's not entailed by P2 or by P1.
How would it not be entailed by P2 if in order to use that formal language to quantify and encode proposition S within it, it would necessitate that the formal language has a true predicate, which is going to be ultimately entailed analytically?
Well, no. So P3 starts with if there exists in any formal language a sentence of that form. Maybe there doesn't exist a sentence of that form. But the point is if there exists one, then it follows analytically.
Logic. Using conditional. Okay, well, Blitz, let's get down to P4, man. Guys, Blitz is going to disprove God's existence. So, Blitz, Before we get to P4,
Yep.
bro, and by the way, Blitz, thank you for the time, bro. This is actually the most cordial that like Blitz has been. I actually have really enjoyed this, guys.
I've been trying to get you to actually engage with this syllogism in a long time.
Blitz, this is good, bro. I genuinely enjoy this version of Blitz, guys. I enjoy like the version of Blitz that comes up here. Now he didn't answer my question of how he knows anything. That's okay, Blitz. You know what I mean? It's cool, bro. Like I want to get down to like this argument because like but Blitz. Can you at least say this? And I know it may be hard for you to say. Can you at least say that QTop is like entertaining your argument? Am I entertaining it?
Yeah, this is. You're absolutely entertaining it.
Okay, guys.
Absolutely.
Okay, W Blitz. I'm entertaining this argument. I just want to know, just for all the people, like I'm entertaining Blitz. I'm entertaining them, guys. Okay. All right, Blitz. P4. Let's get down. Let's get down to P4. And then once we get to P4, my bad. Before I get to P4, I want to let you know this, Blitz. I have granted you a lot in this debate. Now, can you be intellectually honest, Blitz, and tell me what I've granted you already? Or do I need to like explain just one more time?
Yeah, you granted me that modus ponens is valid, even as applied to God. You've granted me that...
He's being honest, guys. He's being honest.
I think that basically sums it up, right? You just generally didn't like conditionals as it applies to gods, right?
Yeah, guys, he's being honest.
Yeah,
guys. But Blitz, but also I granted that that it's possible to reject the necessary identity state in my worldview, right? Because again, you said you're assuming my worldview to be true. So I grant.
Yeah. And in your worldview, yeah, of course.
I granted that your reasoning. I grant you that your reasoning exists in such a way to correspond to things that are true and your sensory data as well, right?
Yeah, sure.
Of course, yeah.
Well, but you do think that's not you granting it. You actually think that my reasoning is fine in your worldview, right?
Wait, no, what I'm saying is no. Exactly. What I'm saying, you assume my worldview to be true. I've granted you that your reasoning faculties can exist to disprove the foundation of your faculties.
You don't have to grant something to me if I'm assuming that your worldview is true. You don't have to grant me that. That's not how granting works.
I do have to grant you because in my worldview that's impossible. So I'm granting you that something is possible. When in my worldview, it's impossible. That's how I'm explaining. Wait
a minute, to be clear, you're granting me that so you're saying that it's impossible for me to assume your worldview?
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, let me add to that. I am granting that it is possible for you to assume my worldview and disprove the impossible. Because in my worldview, it is impossible to disprove the very foundation of possibility. Okay, it is.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll see.
It is impossible to disprove the actualization of all potential. Okay, so
I guess we'll see.
And so, but 1 second, but Blitz, what I'm saying is like you saying we'll see already presupposes that that's possible. That's what I'm saying. So again, okay, but now we've understood that. I fleshed out. I granted you.
So just as a and just as this is just a side remark, but like the notion. So, and I think that you'll probably agree with this. The notion of like our ability to gauge whether things are possible or impossible is not like unless you can derive a contradiction, it's usually pretty hard to figure out if something is possible or impossible, right? Like I could say that it's like impossible for like a unicorn to like fart rainbows, but like, can I actually like show that that's true? You know what I mean? Like
I don't know, Blitz. When
the way that we figure out necessity versus contingency and possible versus impossible is actually pretty loose.
So look,
generally speaking,
like when I'm like gonna like be denoting some like set of like propositional states, which would be like impossible, I would just simply be denoting right a propositional state that like doesn't correspond to Aristotelian understanding of like the law of non-contradiction. So ultimately when you're gonna be deriving right like impossibility from the necessary identity state, you're gonna have to show how something can actually actually reject the very foundation of proposition's ontological identity, which will be grounded in the law of identity, which is another Aristotelian law of logic. So when I talk about possibility here, I'm just saying that I find it to be a fundamental contradiction to assert that the very grounding of all contradictions can be a contradiction. Because essentially that's what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that the grounding that makes contradictions, even something that are not possible, can be a contradiction in itself. I'm just saying, for the sake of the dialectic, I'm granting to you that that's possible to entertain it. Like that's all I'm saying. But like Blitz,
yeah. So QTop, sorry to cut you off.
I want to get to P4, brother. I'm just telling you.
So QTop, I just got a text from my wife. We're leaving for dinner soonish. So if we could do P4, talk about it for a bit, and then I'll dip, and then you can,
Okay, Blitz,
run a victory lap or something.
Come back up, maybe tomorrow if you have time.
Yeah, like some other time. I have a wedding to go to tomorrow, but some other time I'd be happy to come up. But I just want to make sure that we can at least get to the area.
Okay, Blitz. I think this is kind of running. I think
I can show you the text message from my
Blitz,
wife or
I won't
something.
say you're running unless if you promise me another time to come on so we can
Yeah. Well, I'll come back. You know I come back.
Come back. Promise me to come back in 2 days or a certain time that you're gonna come back. Promise me that.
Sometime next week. Is that okay? I'm out of town for a wedding, so like.
Blitz, bro.
So I'm at a wedding. I'm at a wedding tomorrow. I'm traveling the next day. Like maybe Sunday afternoon / evening.
Wait, one second. Can you Okay. How about this? Monday of next week.
What time? What time are you usually live?
Monday. What time are you in? What time zone are you in?
I'm in West Coast time.
Okay, you in West Coast.
I'm just thinking.
So what is it? Is it? It's like 6. What is it?
It's
6?
like 7, right? It's 7 right now.
6:59 for you. 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about we do this? Because you're on West Coast time. How about we do Monday at your noon, my 3?
That should be no problem. I usually finish my live around noon.
Okay, so all right, guys. So all right, y'all guys. I can't say he's running now. He said he'll come back to get the smoke. We can't say he's running. I think he's kind of getting a little bit of. I think he's kind of getting jabbed up in this debate. But listen, guys, there's no problem because Blitz said he will come back. So let's get on the P4, Blitz. It's supposed to be the defeater, guys. We're now on P4.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Blitz. So again, now we understood all the presuppositions I've granted you, all the things I've granted you. Let's get on to P4 now, guys. Blitz says, and again, he says after this, he does have to leave, guys, so we can't heckle him about P4 too much, but I will heckle him to as much as I can. Then somebody said Blitz never smiles. Yeah, no, Blitz, guys, you can't smile when you're in the kitchen. I'm not gonna lie to you. Blitz knows where he's at. Blitz knows exactly where he's at, and Blitz is a pretty bright guy.
I'm in a dark room.
But the thing is, Blitz can only do physics if and only if God exists. That's what's so funny. But
all right, QTop. I gotta go soon.
No,
let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Blitz. Yep, go ahead.
So P4, go ahead. Let me know what you have written down.
Okay. So you said for any formal language L supporting quantification and encoding, there exists no predicate S is true in L.
Yep. It's the whole P4.
Wait 1 second. Explain what you mean by P4 as in relation to P2.
Yeah. So this is as in relation to P3, but P3 and P2 are
is
connected.
Analytical truth. So
Yeah. So this is saying
from analytical truth.
This is saying that there is no. So P2 says that if God exists, then there is some formal language where you can express truth values and you can express God being the truth maker. P4 is saying actually there are no formal languages that do that, which means that either God doesn't exist or you can't talk about God's truth making properties in a formal language.
Okay, yeah. So, Dr. Blitz, yeah, I understand the conditional here. I'm just asking you because it just seems like P3, you're just essentially asserting that because we have this formal language, right, which entails some sort of truth predicate, the formal language would just be analytically true in quantification and coding, which would just be the expression of the truth value itself from formal logic. When I'm just particularly not really understanding or going to push back on here is when you say that, first of all, in P2, which I disagree with, you said that we can express God in this formal language, right? Now, the expression of
No, you're not expressing God in the formal language. You're expressing God's truth-making properties.
Yeah, you're exactly. Well, that's what be expressing God. God is his truth-making properties.
Oh, is God identical to the truth-making properties?
God, yes, God is. God. There's no distinctions in the essence of God. So God is truth. Yes, he's the arbiter of truth, and he's identical to
God is identical to truth.
Yes, he is truth. Yes, that's why Jesus.
Okay, I mean that's fine. That's fine if that's your view. It's a little bit strange, but that's fine. So all people are saying is that there is no way.
So your whole worldview is defeated.
No, it's not.
Amen.
I mean, it's not related.
Hallelujah.
It's not related to P4.
Blitz, that's a wrap.
It's not.
That's a wrap.
It's not related to P4.
Y'all see what's going on right now?
But it's not related to P4 or the rest of the argument.
It is related. It is related.
No, it's not.
God is the ontological identity state of truth. You're saying that,
you're saying
that if God is getting.
That's fine if that's your presupposition, but the point is that you can't have a formalization of God's truth making properties. Is what this argument shows, which means that you don't have a rational way to talk about it.
Blitz, no, that doesn't mean I don't have a rational way to.
How do you talk about it if you're not using a formal language?
You have to show how a formal language would be necessarily dependent upon the expression of speaking about God in terms of His truth-making properties. We just
that's just how philosophers
talk about God. That's
just how analytic philosophers work. Do you just not like analytic philosophy?
I don't look. I'm like more of like a continental philosopher.
Oh, that's gross. No, but okay. So if you're willing to throw away analytic philosophy,
I'm a continental philosopher. I don't hold to like analytic philosophy. I'm not a Bertrand Russell fanboy, right? So okay. So Dr. Blitz, what you have to understand is this, right? We've got down to the crux of the argument, and the argument itself just falls on its head, brother Blitz. Not only
I think you just granted it.
In my worldview, right, which God is not distinguished from His truth-making properties, right?
I actually think that you granted it.
We don't distinguish between God's truth-making properties and the expression of God within a formal language.
That's fine,
right? For quantification and encoding, we don't express God using a formal language. We just simply say that God is the very foundation of truth ontologically. God is not distinct from
that's a fine claim. The point is that what this argument shows is that either God doesn't exist, or you can't talk about God in any sort of analytic way.
It wouldn't show that God doesn't exist. All it's showing is that
it's either or.
Formal language, which within a formal language, which you will be using as a language being a descriptor, you can't use a language to describe that which is
Okay, so you agree that you can't use formal logic to talk about God?
No, I didn't say that you cannot use formal logic to talk about God. You're saying a formal language.
Well, that's what the syllogism shows.
Which entails the formal logic which is being used. I'm simply asserting that because God, Jesus Christ says in the book of John chapter 14 verse 6, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. So we do not distinguish between God, between His truth-making properties and the ontological state of truth itself. You're asking me in a formal language, you're saying this either does one or two things, Blitz, here. You're saying it either disproves God's existence, or it shows how we cannot express and formalize God within a formal language using symbols and quantification.
No, you can't talk about God's truth-making properties within a formal system.
God and His truth-making properties.
Okay.
Prove that.
If that's your view,
you can prove that.
QTop. So if you're saying that you can't distinguish between the two, then that means that you can't talk about God in a formal language.
No, bro. If what you mean by formal language that you can distinguish between the actual ontological identity state of truth and the expression of it, then like by that semantic domain understanding, like sure, no problem, dude. If you're gonna like boil this down to like some sort of like semantical debate, all I'm essentially saying, Blitz, is that we don't distinguish between
God. Was that a concession?
We don't distinguish. No, it's not a concession. I'm literally telling you.
Sounded like a concession.
Blitz, I love you, but Blitz is cool, y'all know. Blitz is cool, and Blitz, you challenged me tonight, bro. I'm not gonna lie, you did, bro. This was good. No, Blitz is tough, bro. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I got a lot more respect for Blitz, though, bro. Blitz is smart, and he challenged me tonight. But what he doesn't understand is that we don't distinguish between God and His truth-making properties and His identity state itself. God being the very foundation of truth, we don't make a distinction, right? Because God entails all propositional states, right? Like God contain. Look, it's like set theory. Can there be a set that contains all possible sets? Or is there a set that contains itself within all possible sets, right? That's why I reject set theory. Set theory has problems under Russell's paradox. It essentially it's just set theory, and it's a reformulation of Gödel's argument using predicate calculus. It's
not Gödel's, it's Tarski's, but sure.
But all Tarski did was just reformalize Gödel's argument here, bro. I know Gödel's argument.
Not really. No. I mean, this doesn't rely on this. I do. So this doesn't rely on Gödel's incompleteness at all, by the way.
Yeah, okay, well,
this relies on
Gödel's
similar, but not the same thing.
Gödel's argument deals with essences. This is just dealing with formal.
Yeah. Oh, so you were talking about Gödel's argument for God. So I thought you were talking about the incompleteness theorems. No, this has nothing to do with Gödel's argument for God. Absolutely nothing.
Gödel's argument. Wait 1 second. Gödel's argument is the incompleteness theorems. Gödel's argument for God and his incompleteness theorems are literally.
No, they're very distantly related. But look, I gotta run. I told
Blitz,
you when I'd
why are you running from me? He said I gotta run. Blitz, why are you running?
Because I have to go get dinner.
Blitz,
Chill, bro.
You got destroyed tonight, bro. You can't leave on this, bro. Oh my gosh. Yo, babe, I'm coming in there. Yo, Christ, can everybody spam the doubles in the chat, bro? Yo! Boom, 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 boom. Don't play with me. Don't play with me, Christians. That's a W for the kingdom of God tonight. That's a W. We wrestled with the lions. We wrestle with the lions, and the word of God stands. We do not make a distinction between the truth properties of God and the ontological identity state of God. Essentially, Blitz was saying this. He was saying if we assume that God exists, and if God is the ultimate ontological identity state which grounds all propositional states, he says in P2, we can thus quantify this. And Charlie with the $50 over Cash App. Oh my goodness, we're going.